calculate the number of people that are alive today because of our dogs, and that's both on the suspect end and the officer end. And we forget dogs are de-escalation.
I think all those deputies there had a really clear picture of what was happening, but this is just a great example of how these dogs save lives.
Welcome to Police Canine Radio. I'm Greg Tawney. With me, Rich Hartman and Sergeant Matt Allert and Deputy Shane Day, and this is a special canine debrief.
Part 2 with Riverside County.
Dose.
Yeah. Let's check it out.
So this call is from December of last year. It happened in the unincorporated area of Paris, which is right in the center of our county. And this suspect, and it was involved in a domestic violence situation with his girlfriend, and basically held her against her will, destroyed the phone, and there was some reports coming in that he was chasing her with the vehicle and actually hit her with the vehicle. What ended up happening was the deputies ended up pulling in behind him, and a pursuit was initiated. 2 of my canine handlers got in it right away. They were just down the street. And then I ended up getting in it several miles later. Pursuit lasted for about 47 minutes, went into San Bernardino County, and here we are in city of San Bernardino, and the guy's exiting the freeway, and I gave my canine permission to Deputy Daughters to pit the vehicle. He ended up doing a pretty good job, pitted the vehicle, and now we're nose to nose. I'm in the white car, and then Deputy Casillas is next to nose with the suspect vehicle. That's where we're at.
All right, let's watch it.
Roll that vehicle.
Second at the red light.
Vehicle still slow rolling backwards. Still on second, just by this shopping center here.
1 second, vehicle slow rolling near a shopping center.
Now, as we're watching it, we're seeing a lot of smoke coming from the vehicle.
Yeah, the car started to catch on fire. There's open flames in through the windshield. We can see it from there. And basically, I'm trying to figure out, and Deputy Casillas, who's a dog handler that ended up deploying on this incident, he's trying to figure out why he's not out of the car yet. The suspect is not out of the car. So you can see the open flames there in the windshield, and he's in and out of the car.
Committed.
And the handler and I are having a conversation about, should we deploy if he goes to run? How is that going to look? Where should we be? And I'm telling him, hey, don't deploy your dog, because the dog has a chance of getting caught inside the burning vehicle, and then we would have a dog rescue on our hands.
It's hard to see the suspect at this point.
Yeah, he's in the smoke, the driver door. He's kind of in and out of the vehicle. He's reaching around in the car earlier.
It's probably not terribly comfortable in there.
Somewhat out of the vehicle, still hiding behind his door.
There goes
So
the
he
dog.
went to go run, and then the dog was sent. As soon as he rounded the corner, the suspect produced a knife, and we're trying to figure out where he is now.
I'm going to pause it for a
second. There's going to be body
here.
cam interspliced in here, so you'll be able to see what's going on the ground.
So we could see that the suspect had a knife and the dog was on a bite, and I heard that radio traffic come up saying, I think it said something along the lines of, pull the dog off, he's got a knife, he's got a knife. Who, was that another handler or just patrol?
No, it's another handler, but as we spoke in the last podcast, we're doing a lot of training with our patrol teams, specifically with Paris. They're very close to us, so they get a lot of training with us, and it's definitely paying off. Patrol is here with us. They were in the pursuit, and they ended on this critical incident now. There's a lot of things going on. The car's on fire. The suspect's wanted for numerous felonies. You can't see it here, but off to the backdrop is it's a dead-end street, and then off to the left there's like a strip mall with like some businesses and things. So there's people out watching. This is downtown San Bernardino. They're videoing, etc. So there's a lot of tactical decision making that's going on here from the deputies on patrol. They do an awesome job, not rushing in, not trying to interject. Definitely there to support, and they're definitely disciplined with what they perceive on the other side of the car, because when the suspect runs, he's got nothing in his hands. As he rounds the car, the dog's sent at my direction, and then he rounds the car, produces a knife out of his pocket, and he's moving toward the deputies. So that's the radio traffic's from Corporal Ray. He's another handler of mine, and he says he's got a knife, and he's trying to tell Casillas, maybe you want to recall your dog. Your dog's going to get stabbed here shortly.
And obviously the patrol deputies that were there knew enough to know that just because there was a lethal threat towards a dog, that didn't allow them to shoot
Absolutely.
suspect.
And like in our training, I specifically go over that as like, hey, the lethal force is not authorized against a dog. It's not a human. We need to be disciplined, and they did an outstanding job there. I was actually very pleased with what the outcome was.
These are approaching subject.
So at that point, they used a 40 millimeter less lethal baton foam round, and the suspect has dropped the knife at this point. Now we're going to move up, get him away from the car, and take the dog off.
Yeah, 100. We got him in custody. We're putting cuffs on him now. Expedite fire. This vehicle's on fire.
Well, expedite subject in custody.
Got away from that car pretty fast, huh?
Well, you can actually see there, and you'll see in the body cam footage, I told the handler to leave the dog attached to the suspect to get him away from the car because I didn't want to get the car explode on us.
So they are notified and we're out. Vehicle's still pretty much fully engulfed here, bungalow, court, and second. You guys want to back your units away? They block some traffic. Get your cars away from that fire.
This is Corporal Ray's body-worn camera. This is Deputy Casillas. We're on the driver's side of the car here, suspect vehicle.
Yeah, 245 cars on fire. He's still trying to take off on us.
If you guys are listening to this on our podcast platform, this is on YouTube, and we'll have the link below so you can see the whole video.
Hey, you put your hands up! Hands up! Hands up!
I'm going to pause right there. Did you give the green light to send the dog when the driver came out?
I did. Not that they need that,
Right.
but basically the handler's looking at me, and at this point, I didn't want the dog to go inside the car, and I wanted to make sure that the suspect was going to shut the door to the vehicle. And once he did that, I gave the handler the green light, and he did a great job.
Once again, this episode is brought to you by Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. There's only one brand of dog food that we use and recommend. That is Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. Inukshuk was created for working dogs and continues to be the top choice for all working dogs, from hunting dogs to sled dogs, and of course, police canines. Whether it be detection or patrol canines, visit inukshukpro.com, or you can find all of the formulas on chewy.com. When the driver goes around to the passenger side, was the dog and suspect now out of view of your handler?
Correct. So the handler's on the far side of the vehicle, which would have been the driver's side of the suspect vehicle. We're now on the passenger side. This is Corporal Ray's body-worn camera footage right here, and he perceives the knife with the suspect. He's a handler, obviously, and he understands it.
Corporal Ray have less lethal here, or is that?
He has a shotgun there, but he's going to transition to a less lethal, and you see he does it pretty quick, and is able to utilize the 40 millimeter less lethal munition to disarm the suspect.
So this body-worn camera footage where we see the shotgun in view is Corporal Ray, also a handler, and he's going to transition to 40.
Got a minute 50.
Call the dog up. He's got a knife. He's got a knife. Put the knife down. Drop the knife. You drop the knife. 40. 40. Drop. 40. 40. Take the dog off. 40. Drop the knife. 40. Get on the ground. 40. Reload. Get on the ground. Take the dog off. Hey.
So he's still kind of non-compliant, right? He's doing half of what we tell him to do, but he's not.
Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get away from the car. Drag him away from the car. Drag him away from the car. You're right. You got both hands. Take the dog off. You got hands. We got him in custody. We'll put cuffs on him now. Expedite fire. Vehicle's on fire. Hey, somebody get those units there. Move those units back now.
Going to talk about that. Several cover officers there. Hands get on. You guys have physical control of the suspect, obviously. At that point, the dog comes off the bite before the guy's even handcuffed, which is perfect. No issue with control there. Pull the dog away, and then handcuffing continues.
Absolutely. Get him away from the burning vehicle. What you don't see in this video is prior to is the planning, right, of making sure that everybody has an assignment. We We cover lethal, less lethal, communication, and cuff. All those assignments were already divvied out prior to even approaching the suspect, and you have those assignments there, and everybody's on the same plan. Everybody understands what's going on. We got the need for handcuffs and all those things that happen on cue. So the planning is definitely where it pays off.
Safe to assume that the dogs have been trained around 40 as well?
Absolutely.
How's that look? Just curious, in your training, at what point are you acclimating the dogs to 40? Are you doing it at the range? Are you doing it in training? Both? How's that looking?
We're doing it in training and at the range. I mean, these dogs see a lot of gunfire at the range. We're at the range regularly. They hear a lot of gunfire. As far as the 40 is basically just a small caliber pistol. It's a small pop. They're not necessarily, it doesn't really bother them too much. Once you acclimatize them to gunfire, the 40 is necessarily not too much of a stretch.
Did you talk to any of the patrol guys afterwards and ask, like, hey, were any of you considering shooting the suspect when he was, or do you have that conversation so far in advance that you knew it was covered? Because across the country, there's still, I think, a fair amount of people that might have made the decision to go lethal with the suspect because the dog was being stabbed, or at least on the civilian side, there's a presumption that the dog's getting stabbed. Why don't you guys, or possibly getting stabbed, why don't you guys shoot the suspect to protect the dog? It's kind of make clear what you're doing with your officers and deputies to make sure that they're not making that decision, and obviously make it clear to the citizens that are out there watching this why we're not shooting a suspect because they're attempting to stab a dog.
We absolutely, when we do these briefing trainings with, I had just done one with Paris maybe a week and a half prior, and basically spoke to them. I show them in my PowerPoint, I show them a video and ask them, do you think lethal force would be authorized at this point with the dog biting the suspect, with the suspect having a knife or something to that effect? And basically, they are our friends or furry friends, but they are property and they're not a human life, and we don't use lethal force in the defense of a dog. We just don't do it. It's just not legal, and it wouldn't make sense. So I think all those deputies there had a really clear picture of what was happening. But this is just a great example of how these dogs save lives. Corporal Ray, who was the handler there with the shotgun before he transitioned to the 40 millimeter, he told me afterwards he saw the suspect produce a knife, and he was thinking that the suspect was going to run at him with a knife. And the dog prevented him from doing that. Well, come to find out, when I interviewed the suspect following the apprehension, he told me flat out, I was going to commit suicide by cop. I was going to run at your deputies with the knife and make them shoot me, and the dog saved my life. The dog prevented me from doing that, which was very cool to hear that from him. It's like, this guy's alive today because of what we're doing with these dogs and these less lethal deployments, right? And these dogs save lives every day. So not only is he protecting Corporal Ray and the deputies from the guy charging him with a knife, he's protecting the guy charging him with a knife to prevent him from committing suicide.
Hey, we'd like to welcome our new sponsor and old friend, Blackjack's Leather. Blackjack's is the true definition of a mom and pop shop. They're out in Illinois. Richard, the owner, is somebody that we work extensively with. They make leather leashes, leather collars, biothane. We get a ton of biothane from them. Biothane 3-foot, 6-foot, 20-foot, 30-foot leashes, all kinds of colors. I know everybody that's listening to the podcast is into the tactical with the greens and the coyotes and the blacks. But if you have a pet dog at home and you want your dog to be a little flashy, we love their long line biothane leashes. There's blues, there's pinks, there's oranges, yellows, all kinds of colors. Add a little flash to your program. And they really care about canine handlers. They're big on making sure that the equipment that they sell is safe for the dog and safe for the handler, and exactly what you're asking for. Blackjack's Leather, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you. I think and this is one thing we implore to handlers all over the state, because there is a push. I think there's a push to get rid of law enforcement in general. People would probably love to see guns disappear and tasers disappear and all those things, and we just go out and we, I guess, social work people into custody, but that's not going to work. But there's a thought that everything is too harsh. The reality, and you just said it, is these dogs are such a huge de-escalation tool. Mm-hmm. And I know we've talked to you about the amount of deployments that you have versus the amount of physical apprehensions that you have. I would say hundreds of deployments, if not more. How many deployments are you guys typically getting in a year? Do you even have a?
I couldn't tell you right now off the top of my head, but our bite ratio, meaning the time we bite people, is less than 2%. I mean, these guys are getting thousands of deployments per year on surrenders and just deployments where these people are surrendering, and we may average 16 bites for the year, something to that effect. It's just super low.
So the dogs are, I mean, as much as it's sexy to have a cool deployment like this, where like, you know, the dog is going and making a physical apprehension, 98% of the time that your deputies are working with a dog, nobody's getting bit.
Correct.
And how often in that time do you think that the dog's just mere presence, barking, saying, hey, we have a dog here that's going to help us out in this situation, is leading to the suspect saying, I'm not really interested?
It's unmeasurable, but I would say more than half the time they're like, I'm done with this. I don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah, and you talk about it. There's a psychological response to all of us. I still, if a dog's barking at me, and I work with aggressive dogs, if a dog's barking at me, I'm like, all right, let's take a breath and like figure out how we're going to work this, right? Like it's scary. I don't want to get bit.
There's a tactical advantage for sure. It's psychological. And this is the thing, and Matt, you touched upon it. Like we can't calculate the number of people that are alive today because of our dogs. And that's both on the suspect end and the officer end. And we forget dogs are de-escalation. And there are people out there that want to make them deadly force. There's been 4 cases in the last 75 years of people that have potentially died from a dog bite, and we're even a couple of those, or the person died like a week later of infection and that type of thing. So if you look and compare to the other less lethal options, you know, if you look at 40, if you look at tasers, if you look, like, dogs are far from deadly force, and again, they save a lot of lives. You know, in our previous episode, we had Deputy Day talk about his last partner, Rudy, and he saved numerous officers on that day. And it's just one of those things. I wish we could get that number out, because I think the public would be astonished about how often these dogs save people.
Yeah, and this is my big push, is there's so many times that the dogs come out, clearly de-escalate a situation, lead to a surrender, that situation, and there's agencies up and down the state that never make a press release on that. And the only time we're getting press releases is when dogs are actually physically apprehending somebody, because it's sexy, maybe it gets seen on the media, something like that, but we're leaving out all the times that the dog shuts something down without ever coming off leash and ever leaving the handler. I think it's really important that as handlers, as agencies, as canine supervisors, whatever's going on out there, that we let the world know what kind of problems these dogs are solving without ever even apprehending, touching a suspect. Because there's a thought out there that we're just biting all the time, that these dogs are just willy-nilly going out there, and that's so far from the truth. Like you said, less than 2% of your deployments leading to a physical apprehension. That's a huge number of successful deployments where the dog never touched anybody. And probably even as good as you guys are at getting the information out, you're probably not celebrating that 98% of the time that the dog's de-escalating. And, you know, you guys have, and I know you can't get into political stuff, but we can. You guys have an amazing sheriff who's really pro law enforcement, pro safety, pro benefit of California being what it should be. He's about to run for governor. We're really excited about that. You guys don't have to say a word, but you work for a hell of a sheriff, and I think his commitment to being a professional department definitely shines on you guys as canine handlers. I know you guys are committed to it. That call right there, watching several from street deputies to canine handlers, communicators, air, everybody coming together to make that safe. And there was nothing safe about that call, right? Like everything that could go wrong was going wrong, and you guys made it all right. It's pretty awesome to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Some lessons learned from that. I mean, we don't do everything correctly here, but I think that it went from like a 0 to 100 in like the matter of a minute. We're thinking we're going to pit this guy, and okay, then it's going to be a vehicle standoff or a vehicle barricade, basically. And then it turns into, the car's on fire now. Okay, well, now he's out of the car. He's back in the car. And speaking with him afterwards, you know, he's saying, why were you in and out of the car, my man? I was contemplating burning myself to death. And he goes, I couldn't stand it anymore. Couldn't stand the smoke. Couldn't stand it. I had to get out.
Not a good way to go.
No.
Yeah.
So then, and then in the call, in the beginning of it, you always take the beginning of the call for granted. The girlfriend stated that he had a knife. He carries a knife. And we're like, oh, okay, a lot of people carry pocket knives, whatever. And I want to stress that if he would have had that knife out beforehand, we would have never deployed the dog. That would have not been a dog problem. We're not going to send our dog on a suicide mission. It's just like when the dog is deployed, though he produces the knife, the deputies acted appropriately and were very disciplined. And like I said, all of them from patrol to my deputies, awesome work as far as being disciplined enough to understand the threat. Corporal Ray has the shotgun. He feels like the guy's going to run at him with a knife, and then he realizes, oh, the dog's got him now. Okay, now this is a different problem. Now we got to work on getting this knife away from him. So that they're able to transition very quickly between lethal, less lethal, communication, cuff, all these things that they're putting together really, really fast. So well done on their part.
And we talked about it in the last podcast. I'm going to reiterate now, like your guys' commitment to professionalism as something small, which is big, as to wearing the uniform that you deploy in, being committed to training, finding holes in your program and filling them instead of ignoring them. And this is some of the things that we see across the nation, across the state, is like, yeah, my dog's not really good at call-offs, so we don't do a lot of call-offs. My dog doesn't out really well, so we just kind of avoid that and wait till certification. You guys immediately find holes in your program and plug them. And I think that's the hardest thing to do with anything, is look at your weaknesses and be like, man, how can I fix this?
Hey, I'd like to thank one of our sponsors, Ray Allen Manufacturing. They've been engineering tactical and working dog equipment like harnesses, collars, leashes for military, police for over 75 years. They are continuously innovating. I always like to say, this is not your dad's Ray Allen. They are always looking for the bigger and the better. We get all of our handlers now in the basic handler course deal directly with Ray Allen. We get our harnesses, leashes, tugs, e-collars, gloves, Rec Specs, Hearing Dog Pro. All of our good stuff comes from Ray Allen Manufacturing. Look them up, rayallen.com. I cannot recommend them enough. We only recommend people that we deal with, and these are good people, and they're in it for the right reasons. So because of that, rayallen.com.
Shane's the king of that. I watch him at training all the time. He takes over training, and it's this, hey, man, tell me what your dog doesn't do good, and then we're going to expose yourself here, right? This is the place to find out the weaknesses and fix them.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about
I think anybody in this room would agree, and most of you people watching, I'd much rather be exposed in training as opposed to the Super Bowl when we're live and the guy's got a gun or whatever you can imagine. So it's much better to make mistakes in front of your peers and learn from each other as opposed to be out with patrol or SWAT or whatever you want to call it when you're dealing with a legit adversary and your dog's not doing what you're telling him to do or just performing at the level that you need him to perform to. So
I want to hit on that because we were just down at Canines United and we had a big cross section of agencies from Southern California. And if you guys are taking the time to go to any seminar or any training, you got to be honest. The first thing we said is, hey, has anybody got any problems with their dogs? Calling out any problems with their dogs?
Nope.
Coming off the bite? Any problems with anything,
No,
right?
Nope.
And it was stone cold quiet. All right, guys, we're going to take a break. You know, go ahead and go out your car, grab a drink, give your dog a potty break. Like 75% of the class left. 25% of the class said, hey, man, I just want to let you know, like, my dog doesn't out really well. My dog has a hard time tracking. My dog, he has a hard time. Like, he's pretty reactive to me on the lead. And, like, how come nobody raised their hand? They didn't give the answer. The answer is because I'm sitting there with 20 other agencies, and I don't want to raise my hand and say, my dog has a problem over at this agency and have that agency judge me. Fucking cares. Like, I'm going to raise my hand and say, is anybody else dealing with this problem? Because it's something that's really affecting me and I need help. And, oh, these people are coming here to give me help. And maybe you've already dealt with it at that agency. You've already dealt with it. Let's talk about it. I'd much rather have that conversation in the safety of that gym with a bunch of other handlers than have that conversation watching it on YouTube.
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that ties into what you asked Matt earlier in part one. What's the biggest learning point, or how do we sell it? Something along those lines. But I think it's just, he kind of hit the nail on the head where we're so one-track minded, right? This is how I run my dog. This is what I do. This is what's successful. Whereas if you have an open mind and Rich does this and it works, obviously if you're doing something that works, I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to put that in my toolbox at the end of the day, and I'm just going to use that from here on out.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, when the event happens, the time to prepare is over, and it's obvious that you guys as a unit, and we talked about this before, you're prepared, you guys are training hard. Other units out there, look at yourself. What are your weaknesses? What do you need to do? Make sure all of your other officers on your patrol shift understand that they can't use deadly force, right? We did a briefing video, and I think that was one of the things we did. So we did a briefing video, if you guys look back on Police Canine Radio, so you guys wouldn't have to. It's like a 20-minute video you guys can show your team. It doesn't cover everything, but it covers a lot of things, and that's a good place to start.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys coming in and sharing that with us. It's always hard to throw your stuff out there, especially when you know, not everything goes perfect, but that's how we all learn. We've all learned from our failures. It's not so easy to learn from your successes. It's always from the failures, and we've all done that, and I think we're all better for it. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
In the meantime,
Train hard.
be safe. Bianco for governor.